Hello everyone, welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel dedicated to Manchester United. As you can see on the screen, it isn't a hologram, I promise you. We have a super special guest today. This is bucket list stuff for us, honestly, it really is. So, first and foremost, thank you very much, Mr. Laurie Whitwell, and how are you, sir?
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, sun's shining. Can't complain. Played at Old Trafford this morning, which was fun. So,
nice.
Just about bucket list. That's certainly a bucket list thing.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, never even thought. You know, I was absolutely rubbish as a player when I was younger. Just played with my mates. Never did it properly. So, yeah, kind of crazy that the job allows me to do that kind of thing, which is a privilege. So, yeah, feeling good.
Well, you've certainly got the stamina, haven't you, from all the 10Ks you've been doing and things like that. So I'm sure you can probably outrun everyone.
That's all I'm bringing to the table, to be honest. I've got, technique is not great, but I can run up and down. I mean, so Neil Custis was our manager, who obviously writes about United for the Sun, and he just kept me out there basically. 70 minutes, I think I did in total, and yeah, up and down, just atoning for my errors and trying to get into the box. Got into the box a couple of times in front of the Stretford end. 2 chances, I should have scored at least 1. Gutted.
Yeah. Are you saying you're the Veghorst of the team? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. I said that in advance. I knew what was going to happen. But I mean, I would still say that his chance against Fulham on Sunday was easier than the 2 that I had. But I mean, bless him. I said it on the podcast this week that it would be a kind of hilarious irony to see him do something on Saturday and kind of stop City's treble. I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe I'm getting just too dream world, but I kind of feel like he might have some part to play.
Have you spoke to Jay Motti? Because Jay Motti was on the channel. Was it last week? He said the same thing. He said he thinks there's a goal in him and he's going to score in the FA Cup final.
Oh, I hadn't actually seen that. Sorry. Right. Okay. Well, there we go. If me and Jay are both saying it, then it's got to be. Yeah.
If he does that, I think Jay said he'd go down to the Trinity statue and chisel in Veghorst's face into the statue if it happens. So
I'd back Jay to have the skills to do that.
Let's just.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I can't imagine the excitement if Veghorst gets that last. Everything that's ever been done, even though he's not scored a league goal, the excitement, honestly, it'll be a cult here.
All's forgiven if he does that.
And talking about excitement, there's a lot of people excited for this one, so make sure you guys smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and it helps support us get absolutely amazing guests on like this. But yeah, Sam, do you want to kick things off?
I just wanted to sort of say a couple of things. Everybody on the channel, me and Nick especially, listen religiously to Talk of the Devils, and you guys, the way the Athletic works, are all a massive inspiration. And when you have to go on Twitter and stuff like that, it's just kind of, it's a lot of rumours, a lot of clickbait. You don't know what's what. So in a world of where it's just I have no idea what to believe, we appreciate guys like you and guys like the Athletic coming on. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to read that sort of content and be informed as well as be sort of entertained with Talking of the Devils. I did want to ask you about your performance at Old Trafford, but you touched on it already, so I'll drop that question. But yeah, just wanted to
talk more about it. I'm that vague. So.
But yeah, all right, we might as well. Why not? What's it like? I've been to the ground many times. I think I did the tour when I was a kid, and I stole a bit of grass when I was there. I think that's the closest.
Where is that grass now? Did you put it in your
God knows. It might be still in the house with Nick, where Nick is, somewhere. So, but yeah, that's the closest I've got to the hallowed turf there. But yeah, how was it? Is it all the dreams that you imagined come true?
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we did it last year, but it rained, so it wasn't quite. I don't know. It's really terrific to play. But yeah, you get to go in the home dressing room, so you sort of see what their layout is. So that's kind of interesting from a journalistic perspective, and then sort of walk down the ramp and out. And weirdly, it obviously is intimidating, even without people in the stands, and it feels like a big stadium. But the actual, I don't know. Maybe it's just me being weird with my running, but it didn't feel like that big a pitch when you're actually there, but yeah, it's still really cool. And I mean, it does really make you appreciate when we're criticizing, scrutinizing players, the absolute quality that must be there, because we were up against some lads who were in the 20s, so athletic, and they could play. They had good touch. I mean, Darren Fletcher was playing for them.
Oh wow!
By the way. Yeah, I should have said that actually. So we got some ringers in. So we've got Danny Webber, Joe Thompson and Mickey Gray, who all they do work in the media, so we were kind of going for that. And then I think they got wind of it, and so Fletch got the call. He was snapping at me from the first minute. I don't know if I've written something that he's not happy with, but he dispossessed me, and to be honest, you can just set up close. It gives you a much bigger appreciation of the kind of level that you need to get to even be close to Premier League, let alone then be at United and winning trophies and things like that. So and we had a good chat on the touchline afterwards. It was nice just sort of getting a sense of what United are thinking ahead of the cup final, the kind of the energy around it, because I just thought that Ten Hag's speech on the pitch on Sunday kind of really hit the mark, to get the fans excited, and then for the players to be able to hear that and that kind of momentum. I don't know, I feel like it can play a part in the performance that you then get on the weekend.
Definitely agree there. Before we get into the football stuff, I wanted to ask a really important, hard-hitting question, because nobody cares about the football. Nobody cares about that. We're here for the proper questions. So the legendary Andy Mitten, who's obviously your co-host on the Talking to Devils podcast, has endorsed you as a cocktail connoisseur. You're obviously a well-travelled man as well. I believe you travelled to Qatar, didn't you? You had that trip across several different countries. So I've got to ask a big question. Where in Manchester does the best cocktail, and what is that cocktail? I just want to nominate Troff in Northcote. Used to do a chocolate orange bitters old-fashioned, which used to be incredible. That was my favourite. They no longer do it anymore, which annoys me to no end, but that was my favourite. So, yeah, what's yours?
Well, Schofield's has got some really good cocktails. I can't actually remember what I had there, but we went in one evening and the bartenders behind the bar, they create their own. So, and I think they have I don't know, 4 maybe per season, and they sort of change them as the months go by. And the guy behind the counter was saying, "Oh, which one do you want then?" And we picked one each, and neither of them were his that he'd made. So we were like, "I know, we'll get yours." We just kept guessing them wrong. It was like the last one we picked basically, and it was like, "No, it's fine. I won't take it personally." But I'm trying to. I went to Climate at the weekend, which is this sort of rooftop restaurant I'd never been before. Really nice, and I had a Singapore sling from there, which had Benedictine in it. So I was thinking, because I wasn't sure if Benedictine was even in cocktails really, from the old Benny and Hot that they love in Burnley. But they put it in this Singapore sling, and it was beautiful. So maybe that's right up there at the moment. So anything with a bit of sharpness, a bit of sweetness, I'm all over.
Yeah, I like a bit of bitterness. I'm a whiskey bourbon type of guy. So anything with a bit of
sour.
I like a whiskey sour. Anything with a bit of punch, I'm all over that. I like that.
I remember that Japanese whiskey you gave me once. It blew my head off. Never had anything.
I did tell you.
What's that called?
Tenjuku, I think it's called.
Oh, that wasn't what I was thinking.
Yeah, so I bought him, and I basically just went, have one, and then just see how you feel. Because if you have 2, you're not going out. It's not happening. You're done. And then he had 2, and then that was it. He was done for the night.
And I could sing quite a few as well, and that was it was like drinking Terps. But I'm more of a Long Island man myself.
Good
but
cocktail.
The thing is, Long Island, though, you have a couple of them, and it's I think they're quite.
They are strong. Yeah.
And I think it's what's that place in Print where it's called Beer Keller, and you go underneath. Shooters, is it? I think it is. They do steins or something. Basically, you have a couple of them, and you're well on your way to.
Wow! What Stein of Long Island?
Yeah.
It comes in like a mug, it's so dangerous. Honestly,
just one would be fine.
Just one. That's what I mean. You have a couple, and it was right.
Then that is it.
But Lolly, calling you Lolly there. From Long Island,
people call me Lolly.
From Laurie Whitwell, we'll go with that. From Long Island to long drawn-out ownership situations.
Very nice.
There you go. We want to start discussing the sale of Manchester United. Now, we appreciate you've probably been asked about a million times, and many well-respected journalists. I suppose it's hard to get absolute concrete information on this when the Glazers are keeping the cards so close to the chest. But from your standpoint, what is the current situation with the takeover as it stands?
Yeah, they are deciding which way they want to go. Mark Kleiman at Sky reported that there was a board meeting on Thursday where there wasn't a conclusion from it, and he's a really well-connected journalist, and we'd heard sort of similar that was going to happen. We haven't written that, but that is our understanding as well, that it's kind of in a mode of stasis really, where you've got what the only reading from that I can draw is that the siblings aren't agreeing as to which one to go for, which course of action to take, which kind of just echoes what we've heard this whole way along, where people have been doubting whether the Glazers had a united front on this, and whether they actually knew that they wanted to sell the club, because obviously that was only, it was a strategic search for strategic alternatives, wasn't it? It wasn't, and sale was within that. So that's where we think it is. I mean, we've written about Sir Jim Ratcliffe feeling like he's confident, and certain conversations that have been taking place that lead us to believe that they're looking at what they would do with the club if they were to take it over, which suggests a certain level of confidence in their bid being successful, and also the doubts, the fact that Rain haven't spoken directly to Sheikh Jassim, for example. That is a question mark really, as to how that then proceeds. So that all weighed in together, as you say, it's so difficult to get absolute confirmation on this, because ultimately the only people that really know are the Glazers. Even within the bid teams, even these people that are having direct conversations, they don't really know, because it seems like minds have been changing as this process has gone on. That maybe they won't be completely honest with them as well. It is a negotiation, so it's kind of like a poker game where there's bluff involved maybe. So it's difficult to get absolute certainty on this kind of thing, and also it's a little bit beyond what the job as a journalist, football journalist, is usually about. Where I've been able to build up contacts over several years in football. This is a sort of different thing. This is a takeover where you're talking about people that are in banks and Sheikh Jassim. No one knew who he was before.
Is he real, Laurie?
This bid.
Is he real?
He's definitely real.
I've seen two photos of the guy.
There is more.
Oh, there's more photos. Okay.
Yeah, there's more.
Please send them us because we need them for thumbnail.
Yeah, I'm sick of making the same graphic just with the one image.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a fair point, because I mean, the PR firm that promoted his bid in the first place weren't able to say, his age, for example, and I think there was a little bit of confusion to begin with over which Sheikh Jassim it was as well. There was that one at the World Cup that was kind of famous because of Emi Martinez, but they were quick to say that isn't the correct Sheikh, but also that there aren't that many photos around. There's this photo of him in a United kit at a United game that hasn't actually been verified yet. So those kind of questions are, you can understand why they begin, but all I would say is that he is obviously he is a real person. I've spoken to somebody that met him when the Red Knights were looking at potential Qatari investment way back when. So there is independent verification that this guy is legit. But then I suppose it's another question as to, does he have the funds himself to buy Manchester United? His father's very influential, very wealthy, HBJ. Is he the ultimate source of this? Mm-hmm. Is the Qatari state the ultimate source of this? It's a really complex issue, and it's difficult to get answers to, and maybe only in time will we be able to get those kind of answers, because there's so much kind of cloak and dagger at the moment.
Yeah.
I feel like, sorry Sam, just before you think, I feel like I should do like an Ian Irving segue here. But you got to go check some more out on the Athletic. Price of a pound.
We did do a thing. We did do what we're hearing a few weeks ago. So it still stands to test, that one.
I'm glad to know he's not AI, because I was starting to think this guy is just like an AI creation that didn't actually exist, and there's all these myths about it. But it's good to know he's actually a real person. So. Yeah. On the takeover, like you sort of touched on it there. There's a lot of cloak and dagger and stuff like that. How hard is it as a journalist with a reputable sort of, a reputation like yourself and a reputation that the Athletic has for accurate and informed sort of articles and stuff you put out? How hard is it to see or hear stuff that you can't verify and you can't really sort of back up and have to sit on it? And you see other people going out with stories like that with no verification and stuff, and they're just chucking stuff out and sort of creating this frenzy. Is it hard to sort of sit and be patient on these stories and not write out the way you want to do it and the way you want to release it?
Yeah, it's a good question. It can be, and we have that discussion internally all the time. I mean, there was that night where there was, the second bids, I think it was, where they went in and then actually, they didn't, and they both asked for an extension, and it took a bit more, it took a couple of days. And I mean, maybe, in the grand scheme of things, it's a small bump in the road, but, that was that night, we want to get it confirmed from all sides. And we kind of waited on that. And obviously at the time, other people were writing stuff, and then you get a reaction on social media, and you see what people are replying to the stories that go out there, in terms of praising them and that kind of thing, and you sort of think, okay, well, maybe we could have done, and other people have certainly got really good information and they've put that out there that we weren't aware of beforehand, and you kind of go and try and check it out. But I think we're quite lucky in the sense that we've got the structure that we have. We don't necessarily need to be the first with every incremental update. Yeah, as long as we're right about it and we can write a comprehensive piece as it's happening, so that people feel like they kind of have a grip of what's going on, then I think we're okay. But obviously it's different. There's different pressures for different publications, and yeah, we try and get everything that we can right. I'm sure we've got little bits wrong at different times in terms of how we phrase things, maybe, or maybe maybe we could have gone with a certain piece of information and we didn't, and we held back, and actually in hindsight we could have gone with it. Sure. But yeah, I'd rather we've got a great setup, and I've got to praise my colleagues because they make calls as well, so it is I'm kind of a bit mad. I will be sort of checking things late at night, trying to chase things up, but also there's other people that do those kind of things as well, and we all discuss it together before writing things. So it's a great place to work, to be honest, without trying to get a pay rise out my I'm a boss's
promotion. Get a promotion. Yeah. No, it sounds like a really sort of interesting place to work, and it's not often you see that. I see a lot of journalism where it's just like scramble to get the first story, but it's nice to sort of see people take the time, put the effort in. So me and Nick appreciate it. We're both subscribers, so we both like enjoy
Thanks
it.
a lot.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
I know I'm conscious of your time, so I don't want to rattle through stuff, but I'm just conscious of how much time we've got with you. So I want to just move on to transfers. I'm not going to ask you who you think or who you want or any of that sort of stuff, because I know you've covered it a lot in articles, and I know you did that Q&A after the Fulham game as well, didn't you? And people sort of bombarded you with stuff. So in the comments,
I forget.
And stuff like
sorry.
That. Yeah, okay. It's all right. Yeah, it's fine. But for reports that I've seen on the Athletic and other places, we seem to have like a limited budget, and then plus sales, we're able to sort of then further fund different stuff. Ten Hag's managed to achieve Champions League football. He's got a positive environment. He's got a trophy in the bank now. He's got another final. He's essentially done what has been asked of him and more. I just wanted to ask, are we now heading into probably one of the most crucial windows of Manchester United's last sort of 10, 11 years? Because the last couple of times, there's always been question marks over certain managers. Jose with kicking off with certain people and not being happy. Ollie, inexperience and the environment around the dressing room, etc. Do you think he's got plans, Ten Hag, for scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, depending on the ownership, and if we sell well, and if we don't, and then obviously with the saga of De Jong last summer that went on for 12 weeks, do you think they want to avoid that and do their due diligence this summer and be better and be on it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they last summer, I sort of put this question to people at the club and said, how come you weren't quicker with certain signings? Because you knew your manager in April, and we were getting to the middle of July, I think it was, before the first Eriksen and Martinez and Malacia were coming in, and the sort of the response to that was, well, we didn't know for sure who the manager was going to be, and you need so okay, fine, we'll let them off that there was a change that needed to be sort of settled down before they could really pursue stuff. I mean, I suppose they might say this time there's an ownership debate going on. So can they really push the button on certain transfers? I would still say you've got Erik ten Hag there, who, as you've rightly said, has had a great season, and he's shown that he should be trusted in certain moments. Like I would like to see a bit more from I don't know, thinking outside the box for certain signings, maybe, and the recruitment system, bringing up names where United could actually sign them for a good value and they could grow with the club. But then again, also United are at this level where only a certain pool of players is going to improve the team and get them into that sort of title challenging contention. And Erik ten Hag absolutely wants players that will deliver straight away. I mean, that was even his point last summer to people that he's all about developing players and bringing them through, but also he realised that he needed to win straight away. I mean, they look at the first two games, that kind of spread a bit of panic at United, and they went and signed Casemiro and Anthony. they have definitely been thinking of names that they could in. You look at the sort of talks that are happening around Mason Mount. I think that's an indication. Centre forward and number 8 are the two positions that I kept being told about. I mean, clearly everyone can see it with their own eye. Centre forward is an absolute essential priority. I believe that Ten Hag is pressing for Harry Kane, but then again, Spurs, Daniel Levy. I also hear that he's very reluctant to sell him.
He's not going for less than 100 million, is he?
That's what you think. I mean, even with having a year out of his contract, Christian Eriksen had the same thing at Tottenham. Levy held on to him and sold him, I think, for 20 million maybe in January. So he got a sort of decent fee for the guy. So he might look at that and think, well, I'd rather do that than let him go to a rival, in the summer. So United will have to weigh up whether. I mean, like I say, I don't even know if there's a number that they could put down to get him. And then, but he would be. I mean, look at him; he scored 30 goals this season in the Premier League in
one of the worst
side.
Spurs sides of a long time.
So whatever his age, I just think that he would instantly. I mean, he would transform Manchester United's side. So Ten Hag is in a position, I think, of strength now. So he's pushing for things, behind the scenes. He's very direct with people. But that being said, the ownership is up in the air. And as you've touched on, they overspent last summer. So let alone what the Glazers would be willing to, put on the revolving credit facility, which we're told is going to be wiped out by June the 31st. Is there a June 31st?
June 30th. 30 days, September. April, June, November.
November. Yeah.
Recap.
There we go. 30th of June. So they could, that's what they would be dipping into, this credit facility. But then there's financial fair play, profit and sustainability regulations that, it depends who you speak to, whether United actually have to sell before they buy, from the get-go. We've also reported 100 million. So I think there's a bit of wriggle room there. I know 100 million is not a small amount of money, but it's maybe they could push things in terms of installments and things like that. And also, they do need to sell. They were very aware of they need to be better to sell players. And you look at maybe Dean Henderson, maybe Scott McTominay, Harry Maguire could get good fees. So that's something that the scrutiny, the eyes are on the sales and signings team.
What about outgoings, Laurie? Because United haven't been great at selling players in the past, due to big wages, players not living up to the reputation, poor recruitment in certain stages, like you just touched on there. How do we become more diligent at selling our players at the right time as well? You've seen players like even the captain Harry Maguire being linked with moves, Scott McTominay, these kind of players with a big profile.
I think they need to be brave. I think there was under Ed Woodward, I think they were scared to sell players to potential rivals, even like West Ham or Everton, teams like that at one point. I know, for example, Sergio Romero wanted to go, and they said no to Everton because they were seen as the Europa League rival at that point. I mean, it's just crazy.
That guy deserved, did he? He deserved to sort of get his move, man.
He lost his rag, and you can understand why at that moment. But I mean, you look at Man City; they've sold Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus to Arsenal. Which, okay, there was a bit of a title race at one point, and maybe they would have thought actually we could have done with keeping them. But really, they've sold them for good prices. They weren't going to be affecting their team on a regular basis, so sell them, even though it's to Arsenal, where maybe Guardiola's relationship with Arteta has helped him there, but they had the confidence that they had enough players that they could bring in more players. It keeps the squad fresh. It keeps the competition for places there, because they know those players, if they don't perform, they're going to be sold. Look at João Cancelo. So United have never really sold players. Fergie used to do it all the time. Beckham, he was still a very good player, sold. Van Nistelrooy, sold. Stam, I mean, I think he says that was a mistake, but they sell, they sold players even though they still had something left to give, and it's felt like United have kind of tried to cling on to players.
Phil Jones,
yeah. I mean, I have massive sympathy for Phil Jones because of the injuries, but equally, they should have realised that at the time when he signed his last contract, really. Yeah. So, I mean, the issue they have is that you've got players on big wages. So Harry Maguire, I don't know his exact salary, but it's over £150,000 a week. There's only a certain number of clubs that, I mean, I don't know if there's any clubs that would buy him that would pay him that salary. So if they did sell, say, to a Newcastle, they would have to also, basically pay up, not the rest of his salary. I'm sure they'd come to an agreement, but however much is left on his contract, they'd have to give him some kind of payment to compensate for the fact that he wasn't then earning that per week at his new club. So that's one of the issues that you've got. But I think they need to be. I mean, to be fair, with James Garner, I look at him. Fans were sort of questioning that one last summer when they were like, actually, he's had a good loan at Nottingham Forest. Why not keep him? Actually, maybe his peak was that kind of level, Nottingham Forest Championship, and he's gone to Everton. I think he's had a decent little run recently, but United got pretty good money for him for a player that hadn't performed in the Premier League yet. And I think that's fine. I think just be confident in when you can sell play and sell them at their. So you look at Anthony Elanga now, even for Kundre Palistri, there's possibly a reason to keep them and develop them, and maybe loan them out. But then the flip side is they might have a loan that doesn't go anywhere, and then you've got a situation like Tahith Chong where, I mean, they were sort of. They got a very minimal fee for him really from Birmingham in the end last summer, and that was because he'd had so many loans where they hadn't actually worked out, so his value actually decreased. So it's not always the case that a loan will raise a fee. But yeah, sorry, long-winded answer, but
that's fine.
Yeah, I think they need to get better at that aspect, and they are. That's what they're conscious of.
Yeah, for sure.
To say it's going to be a long to-do list at Manchester United. There's so many lot of things like I don't envy some of the people in the positions, honestly. Something nightmare. But yeah, the last thing kind of wanted to touch on, a quick reflection on Erik ten Hag's first season in charge. How do you feel he's done? Has the bar of expectation been set now for next season? Because when we beat City at the weekend and we win 2 trophies, Carabao Cup and FA Cup, third place finish, if you go then spend 150 million, Laurie, what's the expectations then? Because you'd expect there's not much room, wiggle room, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you look at how far off they were City. So he's added 17 points to the total from last season. You'd expect a decent bump from that because it was a disastrous season, the worst in Premier League history. But by the same token, 17 is a good raise on what they were last season. And then City, I think, was it 14, 15 points in the end behind first place. So that's another sort of hefty leap. So, that maybe that's a striker, because you look at the amount of goals that United didn't actually convert from their chances and the number of goals they scored overall, because the defence was pretty good overall, even accounting for 7-0 and 6-3 and 4-0.
I think at home we conceded 9 goals total at home, which is insane. That's title winning form. You know what I mean?
It was one of the best, wasn't it? I think I saw United 2007-8. I think they conceded 7 at home in the league, which was one of the great Fergie teams.
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, if they can figure out the away form as well and kind of make sure that's a cohesive unit and just add that X factor up top, then yeah, they could add quite a few more points. I suppose it's just City again. They probably dipped a bit really. 89, they could go above 90 again. But I do agree. I think if they spend 150 million, the expectation then is, I think it would still be have a really good season where you go close or go closer. I don't know if people would be expecting a title charge from that, and they would want a good showing in the Champions League. They want Champions League being comfortable, I suppose. Whereas obviously it came down to the last week or two here. But I just think that Ten Hag, he seems very confident, very calm, very calculated with what he wants to do with the club. So I think people have to trust him. I think he's given United fans a reason to be confident maybe more than any other manager since Fergie, just because of the whole package. He's on an upward trajectory. He feels like he's in control of the club. He's clearly an expert coach, and he's got very good staff around him to do that kind of technical work on the pitch in Carrington. So yeah, I would back his judgment on a lot of things.
Have we got time for one more question? You got time, or do you need? Yeah.
Thanks guys.
No worries. Ten Hag, he made an interesting quote. I'm not even sure if you might have asked the question, to be honest, in the press conference. When somebody asked him, how close is your team to the ideal team in terms of playing style and sort of winning the way you want to win, he said there's still a long way to go, but we're on the right track. How far away do you think we are from that sort of, you look at the team, when you looked at Fergie's teams, you that's how they play, you understand. You look at Mourinho's teams, that's how they play. How far away do you think we are? Do you think it's 2-3 years? Do you think he needs 4 or 5 transfer windows, and then that's when he starts challenging for big trophies? Or do you think it's sooner than we think?
Well, I think Jurgen Klopp's a good comparison. Where was it 3 years before they properly started to click? And you got Alisson. That was the
and Van Dijk as well.
And Van Dijk. Yeah. But Alisson was the kind of transformative figure for the whole. For having a goalkeeper that can do that kind of thing. And clearly that's what Erik ten Hag ultimately wants. But David De Gea is going to stay. I would be very confident in saying that I think he'll sign his new deal, and so that you've got him as your number one for at least another season, two, depending if he then maybe they buy someone else that challenges him a bit, but it doesn't seem like that's going to change too much. I think Ten Hag has to be pragmatic for the immediate future, and then it is about adding the players in the right sort of mode that he wants. Because I mean, Casemiro has been a brilliant signing, but he's 31, and it was a signing basically because he wanted to leave Real Madrid, and United looked at it, and they did a lot of drilling down into the numbers, into his character, into his fitness record, and it made a lot of sense, and he has been really, really good. But how many more years can he produce? Christian Eriksen's 31 as well. Obviously, we touched on the striker situation, so there's lots of positions that you're thinking they aren't quite ideal. I mean, even Aaron Wan-Bissaka's been superb sort of later on in this season, and Diogo Dalot, I think at the start of the season, you've had sort of two, a right back of two halves there, but really, I think he prefers.
He's been linked with someone else. Is it Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen?
Frimpong, yeah, they have looked at Frimpong certainly in the past, and I think even more recently made a check, but I don't know. Again, it's numbers. It's always figures with United, where how far down the list of priorities can they go, and that would also, I guess, that would definitely depend on a sale. They're not going to have three right backs, plus Ethan Laird coming back from his loan at QPR maybe, but so yeah, I don't know. I would probably say another 2 years away from going. This is a Ten Hag team, really. We've seen glimpses of it, haven't we? There's been Nottingham Forest game away.
There's been games. There's certain games Tottenham. Where you've gone. Yeah, Tottenham. One. Yeah.
First half, certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
Even City, I know it was a little bit sort of backs to the wall, but they were quite clinical when they got the ball. I do think he is, for all the possession that he likes to employ, I think he can be a direct coach as well. And obviously that was a key game for that. I mean, yeah, it's the blueprint for Saturday, really, isn't it?
I was just about to say on that, because a lot of people are expecting a 70% dominated possession every single game. Like, this is how he's going to play, won't change. But he's had to adapt. You see the Liverpool games, Arsenal games, he's had to adapt on the counter attack, and with the players at his disposal, he's had to tweak it. And I think that's signs of a good coach that he has done that. So yeah, I'm more than happy with Erik ten Hag going forward, and I think you might be right. In maybe another 2 years, a few more windows, we might be at that point. Yeah, look, that half an hour absolutely flew by.
Should we read a couple of comments and then we can let Laurie go? Yeah. Let's read a couple of comments out. People shout out to Laurie. He says, "Thank you for coming on. One of the very few trusted, respected journalists currently working today." So people, a lot of love in the chat for you, Laurie. Let's have a look. Laurie equals legend. Jones had massive potential in his first few seasons. Unfortunately, how his career went. Yeah, people, Phil Jones fans. The away form is 100% quality. If our first team, we had 4 world-class players, it'll be a lot different, especially with a striker. And then Dan Raj with a super chat. Laurie, who would you prefer, Sir Jim Radcliffe or Jassim for United?
I mean, there's pros and cons with both.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I have always I've always been resistant to the idea that a state would own United if it then transpires that that's where the money's ultimately coming from, and really it's all linked in Qatar, ultimately. But then Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you look at what's happening with Nice, and I would have concerns about that as well, and then the fact that there's still debt involved. But then again, the Glazers have made it so that debt is involved in any takeover United, really, unless you are a state. So I don't know.
It's a minefield. It's
a
minefield, to be honest. Like many things at Manchester United. I absolutely promised my mate, because he's coming to the live show with me, he's obsessed with Talking the Devil. So
thanks so much for coming, guys. Really appreciate it.
Can't wait for it.
It'll be good, yeah. I'm buzzing for it.
I promised him, he said, just ask him who's he's been most impressed by, apart from Andy Mitten. It could be a quick fire answer, it could be a quick name, but whoever you've interviewed in your career, who you've been most impressed by.
Impressed by.
I'd be taken away. Maybe you've done an interview and you'd be like, he's maybe surprised me a little bit, or he's got something about him. I said I'll promise I'll ask him because.
It's fair enough. I'm trying. I feel bad that I'll probably forget someone. I don't know. I really enjoyed. And I bang on about this guy all the time, so sorry if it's tedious. But Eric Steele, It was goalkeeping coach at United under Fergie for the final 5 years. And I got to know him a little bit when he was at Derby County under Steve McLaren. And then when I came to the Athletic and covered Man United, I said, oh, would you be up for doing an interview with me? And it was, one of these where the Athletic was just starting out and it needed a bit of faith from people to kind of buy into it. And he was like, no problem, meet me at this pub. And he was just absolutely brilliant. And he gave me like stories about Fergie that I'd never heard before. And I don't think I might need to re-promote it because I don't think, since that point, obviously we've grown and what have you. But I really enjoyed his company. He's a great character. Got loads of colourful stories and knows his stuff as well. So I'll probably say Steely.
Yes, that's a great answer because we're in a similar position now. We're just starting out. We've got an absolute legend on. So thank you very much, Laurie. We really appreciate it. Like me and Zan both said, cannot wait for that live show in September. So I don't know if you've sold it out or not or whatever, or if there's still tickets available.
I don't think so. I think they're selling like hotcakes. But yeah, you better, if people are still thinking about whether to get tickets or not, I think there's a few left. So yeah, don't miss out.
Get on it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Laurie. Wish you well in future endeavours, and I'm sure you're going to be very busy over the summer period with transfers and the ownership takeover. So
Can't wait.
Thank you for coming on.
Nice one, guys. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thank you for watching, guys. So make sure you subscribe to Real Reds Talk, smash the like on the video. We'll see you later.
Subscribe to The Athletic as well. If you're not subscribed to The Athletic, go follow Laurie on The Athletic. It's well worth your time.
Do that.
See you later, guys.
In a bit.